German Chancellor Angela Merkel is sending a message to Japan about facing up to its wartime past. She's on a visit to Tokyo, hosted by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. He's accused by neighboring countries of trying to rewrite history by downplaying Japan's atrocities during World War II. For the latest, let's go to CCTV's Guy Henderson, who joins us from Berlin. Guy, this is clearly an important moment for Germany to bring up this very sensitive issue. Presumably no coincidence.
Well, indeed, and Germany is in a pretty unique position to make these kind of comments so frankly, given that Germany has been through that process in a very upfront and open manner of dealing with its past. And given the recent tensions between Japan and some of its neighbours, given concern amongst its neighbours about what is perceived by them as a growing sense of nationalism within the Japanese government, and given that this anniversary, this 70th anniversary of the end of the Second World War is only a few months away, you're right, it's very unlikely that these comments were coincidental or were impromptu. In all likelihood, they were very well placed and very well prepared for. What's another strikingly similar aspect between these two countries, well, between Germany and Japan, is that 70 years since the end of that conflict, both countries are going through at the same time a very fierce debate around defence policy and whether reforms should take place to allow those countries to go to engage more actively militarily and on foreign soil, sending their militaries abroad. But there's a big difference, because Germany here is treated by its neighbours and actually has many of its neighbours calling for it to step up and engage more actively in the region militarily, whereas in Japan, much less so, and that's still treated with some suspicion. So it's also possible that the Chancellor's comments might spark some debate around whether the big difference is that Germany has been able to deal very openly with its past and move on.
Guy, what else was on the agenda between these two world leaders?
Well, the upcoming G7 summit, which Germany will be hosting in just a few months' time at the beginning of June. Of particular interest could be climate change. Now, the Chancellor is really on the beginning of a pre-summit tour at the moment to try and persuade G7 countries to commit to national carbon emissions cuts, particularly given that late last year the so-called E7, which is the seven big emerging economies, are now managing to cut their emissions rates faster than the G7. So that will have been a topic of concern between the two. Another possible discussion within that is a potentially divergent point of view on renewable energy. Now, of course, we all know about the terrible events of the Fukushima nuclear plant a few years ago. Off the back of that, Germany U-turned on its nuclear policy and moved towards renewable energy, whereas perhaps slightly ironically, it is now Japan that is considering recommissioning some of its nuclear power plants. So there's a good chance that the Chancellor will have been trying to persuade Japan ahead of this upcoming summit to recommit and ensure that it can commit to renewable energy.
All right, clearly a lot of important issues on the table. Thank you very much, Guy Henderson, live in Berlin.